So please come join me. One thing, good vibes only. I just tapped. I'ma fill my cup. Got fireworks. Let's blow some down. Tonight I'm going stupid. Doing things I've never done.
Alright boys, welcome to the 2017 Draft Selection Show. As you guys can see, we're going to be doing it sort of through Madden 17. I'm going to go ahead and download the latest rosters just so you guys make sure that see, I already have it, that it's the most recent. And basically how we're going to do it this year, I came up with the idea of doing a fantasy draft through Madden's online franchise mode. And the way this will work is, unfortunately, EA has an agreement with the NFL and I can't manipulate divisions or league size, so we will have to play with 32 teams, and they'll obviously be ran by computers. The deal is everything's going to be ran through a computer, so it's all random and it's all computer driven. I won't be playing any of the games. I will just be updating you guys on how your team does, who they draft, and the week by week kind of games that you guys face. And that's why the teams you guys selected didn't matter. And some people will bring up that, well, different teams have different coaches and different schemes. That gets thrown out the window when you think of that it's a fantasy draft. So the players, Madden's not sophisticated enough to draft to the style that your coach has. It's just completely random. So if you get a West Coast and you end up throwing like Cam Newton in it, it's obviously the scheme goes out the window. So everything's random. Got the latest roster. Let's get to it. So we do it offline. That part doesn't matter. I'll use the active roster.
Welcome to franchise mode. The best way to play through a season with your...
It's all nonsense. Alright, the players are imported. Alright, so let me pull up who we all picked. Because I forget who I picked. I think I picked the Seahawks. Yeah. So the longest part of this will be adding all these teams. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to do it. Alright, so, and the draft order is completely randomized. You'll see that just when we get in there. I don't choose it at all. Just so you guys know, everything's completely random. Alright, starting point, we'll go down to fantasy draft. League settings. Alright, here I'm going to put it all Madden and put the quarters all the way to 15, just so everything's at the highest settings. The game speed will keep normal. League type, this coaches and owners thing is useless. We're not all usering and playing these games. Trade deadline, we'll keep that on. Actually, trades are disabled, so there's no need for the computers to just trade players. That way they won't trade draft picks either for players. That would muddy everything up. Salary cap off, obviously, with a fantasy draft. Injuries we're going to turn off, and we're going to turn off pre-existing injuries. So everybody starts fresh. Every player's in the game, basically starting from scratch. Practice squad stealing, that's all nonsense. We're going to turn off progression to just after the season, so it doesn't affect anything. That way rookies don't just blow up out of nowhere. In fact, the rookies are already updated to where they ended at the last season because I just downloaded Madden's most recent roster. We're going to go to 15-minute quarters. Kind of makes it fun. All the stats will be updated, the true form. We can look at off-season leaders and stuff like that. Fill roster, that's just in case your user doesn't, or the computer doesn't draft like a kicker for you or something. They'll sign somebody in the off season. That's all stuff after the season. Progress players is off. Season free agents, nope. Alright, I'm gonna turn that off. That'll make it easier. So all those settings are right where I think everything's fair. Everything's random. So all there is to do is to enter. Once I enter, is basically it just starts the draft. It doesn't randomly generate anything in front of your eyes. It just sets the order, and actually the clock starts as soon as I hit X. So I'll pause it. I'll kind of walk us through where everybody's picking, remind you guys of basically where your guys are picking and what teams you guys chose. Trevor says the Patriots are gonna cheat. That's funny. So Mason might have his edge. And Frank said he missed it. The teams, Frank, is basically just, it's a fantasy draft, so you're just basically getting a jersey and the mascot. So I'm gonna enter this. Get a cool cutscene. I gotta hurry up and pause it. Oh no. Okay, so it didn't start it in. So let me go ahead and right now this is gonna take the longest. So if you guys want to duck out for like 10 minutes, go do something, come back. I'll start the fantasy draft at like right around 8:15. Because this part takes forever. So let me pull up the teams. So Brandon Ploss was the Steelers.
Your season starts now.
In fact, I need to make sure that the same settings come over. Okay, cool. So the settings did come over for the players I add. And I promise I won't mess with any of these stuff. I'll basically write a report and live stream the updates. Kind of not week to week. I'll probably do like 2 or 3 games, regular season games a week, and then hopefully we all make playoffs and we can do it that way. But no promises. There wasn't an easy way. I spent like 2 hours today trying to figure out schedules of 12 teams that played each other the same amount of times, and I came up 3 teams 2 games short. So unfortunately we have to do it this way. And the way I'll determine the draft order is at the end of the year, I'll progress the season. We'll start at the new draft for this in Madden, and I'll just inverse the order. It's unlikely that we'll all make playoffs, but all the tiebreakers will all be determined based on record and scoring, or however the tiebreakers are done in the NFL. But we'll look at the draft and we'll inverse it. So like the best players, instead of drafting 32nd for winning the Super Bowl, say Ploss with the Steelers wins the Super Bowl, he will have the first pick. And I think this year we're gonna have whoever's teams finishes highest we're gonna pick what draft spot we want instead of just going 1 through 12. So if Ploss Steelers win the Super Bowl, Ploss will have his pick at what pick he wants to pick at. So if he doesn't like the first pick, he can pick 5th or 6th or 3rd. Alright, let me add all these teams. With the Raiders, we have Pat Kelly.
Start your season with recommended settings. Your season starts now.
Makes you do this cutscene every time.
Select the team you want.
John Oliva selected the Bears.
You'll be able to choose the role you play. Start your season. Your season starts now. Select the team you want to
Proper
join.
selected the
Don't worry,
Chiefs.
You'll be able to choose the role you planned in just a second. Start your season with recommended settings. Your season starts now.
And to make sure everything was random and that coaches and schemes didn't matter, I did a bunch of fantasy drafts before this, including to make sure that the random order was different every time. And I've had so many different outcomes happen, like the Jags winning the Super Bowl and nonsense like that. So the fantasy draft really just nullifies every advantage that coaches and schemes kind of bring. Alright, Mason with the Patriots, with this weirdo as the head coach. It's not Bill Belichick.
Your season starts now.
mansion, a condo cabin. I sleep in my phantom. Dancing with the stars to the Star Spangled Banner. I change the channel, I change
Alright, Cameron was the Browns. I kind of
Select
skipped
the
over
team
that
you
one.
want to join. Don't worry, you'll be able to choose the role you planned in just a second. Start your season with recommended. Your season starts now.
Snakes are the baby rattle. I play the shadows, don't play no games. I straight get at them. I'm on a all day like it's my favorite album. I play the salmon, the Cayman Islands.
Sean Meal
the team you
selected
want
the
to join.
Falcons.
Don't worry, you'll be able to choose the role you planned in just a second. Start your season with recommend. Your season starts now.
Then kiss the baby, get situated, get keys off table and leave her. I really made it, get it made. Won't wrestle, cause I spatula all you action figures.
Alright, Trevor picked the
Select
Bills.
the team you want to join. Don't worry, you'll be able to choose the role you start your season.
Rex.
Your season starts now.
They say, yeah.
I'm doing this for what else. When I go, I'ma leave for the belt. I told you did like a shovel. I want a Ferrari in yellow, just so I can match all my yellow.
Select the team you want to join. Don't
Ken
worry,
selected
you'll be able to choose the role
49ers.
you planned in just a second. Start your season with recommended.
Chip Kelly.
Your season starts now.
And we've got Matt and Frank. I don't know why every time I try to edit this post and save it, it disappears. Matt took the Jaguars.
Start your season with recommended.
And
Your
Frank took the
season
Dolphins.
starts now. Select the team you want to join. Don't worry, you'll be able to choose the role you planned in just
The
a
only
second.
weird thing about the fantasy draft I noticed is that sometimes teams elect not to select a kicker because obviously, you know, in the NFL there's a handful of kickers that are worth taking and that are usable. So they kind of just draft other positions and wait to, I'm assuming, wait for the offseason to just sign a free agent kicker. I saw there's usually like 78 to 73 kickers overall available after the draft. The same goes with punters. So when you see that your team doesn't have a kicker or punter, they will sign one. I have the computer filling any needs that we have, so you won't have a wideout kicking and punting for you. Don't worry about that. Alright, so make sure we have 12 here. Trevor wants me to fire Rex Ryan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Alright, so let's do this. Start fantasy draft. I'm going to switch back to my team just for the heck of it. It won't. I don't know why that just happened. It won't affect anything, I promise. I just don't want to be the cause of anything that goes wrong on somebody else's team. Alright, so once I start this, I'm going to go down and pause it real quick, hopefully before the first pick's made, and we'll see where we're picking in this fantasy draft. There's going to be 52 or 53 rounds, and I'm going to obviously auto-sim. I think I'll probably go through the first round, because the computer does pick pretty quick, so we'll see what we can do about that. Alright, so here we go. Start the draft. Alright. So. Alright, looks like the Bucks. Panthers, our first one would be Mason. Mason got the 3rd pick. So he's the first pick. Obviously, it's random because the Patriots won the Super Bowl. And they were, I can't remember where they finished last year. Before that, which would be this one. So I think they lost in the AFC Championship game. So Mason will pick 3rd. Looks like Sean will pick 11th, and then Pat is 12th. Then the Browns got the 14th, so Cam's picking 14th. Then Trevor at 16. Those are 2 good picks because right in the middle. And then Bert will pick 17th. I got the 22nd. And then it looks like Ploss is 24th. Frank is 25th. Proper got 28. Ken is 30th. And John rounds him out at 31. So as you can see, it is Snake, so don't worry if you guys got the last pick. Obviously not as ideal in this league because there's so many teams, but those teams will be a lot more depth because then you've got another 63 picks before the first pick. So, alright, I am going to see how long it takes once I resume, how quickly. So, can I skip? Okay, so I can. Alright, so I'm going to just skip to the next pick. And I'll pause it and I'll update. So Mason got Andrew Luck with the 3rd pick. So real quarterback heavy, as you can see. First 6 picks are quarterbacks. Alright, so Sean is up and I'm going to resume the draft. Skip to the next user.
The Raiders are now on the
and I'll pause it. I guess I don't really need to pause it, but alright, so Sean went defense with Patrick Peterson. That's a good get in this game, in my opinion. Alright, so Pat's up next with the Raiders.
The Browns are now on the
And Pat elected to go with Charles Harris Jr., again, another cornerback. Alright, Cam with the Browns. Finally able to get a good player for once.
The Bills are now
Browns went with Luke Kuechly. Great pick there as well. Probably the best linebacker in this game. Alright, the Bills also have a chance to get a good draft pick. Good player.
The Jaguars are now
JJ Watt, that's huge, especially with the no injuries in this league. That's a cornerstone right there. Trevor Pats cheated. He warned us, so. Alright, Bert on the clock.
The Seahawks are now
The Jaguars took Desmond Trufant. That's a good pick. Going defense. Oh boy, so this is my team.
The Steelers are now on
They stayed true. I took Earl Thomas, so he stays in that Seahawks jersey. I'm alright with that. Wow, Dak going with 23rd. So there you can see the rosters are updated. Dak obviously young quarterback with a good overall. So, alright, Ploss with his first pick is going to take Tyrone Smith. Sure up that left tackle spot. And our Cinderella, and I don't mean in a good way, our princess of the draft, our toilet bowl winner, Frank,
the Chiefs are now on the
takes Malcolm Butler. Heavy defense towards the end of this draft. Alright, Proper's pick.
The 49ers are now
Proper takes Drew Brees. There's another quarterback off the board. Alright, last 2 picks, and then I'm just going to auto sim, and I will kind of walk through your guys' roster. I will maybe post everybody's roster and pictures, either send it personally or not. We'll see. But last 2 picks. Ken took Aqib Talib. Again, defense is huge in this back half of the draft. And John with the 31st pick takes
Bears are now on the clock.
Bobby Wagner. So another defense. Alright, so I'm going to skip to the end of the draft and I will walk through everybody's team and then that'll conclude things. So there you can see it's simming the whole draft. Sorry for all the posts today. It should go quiet for all the way up to draft. They're just trying to kick off things. Kind of an exciting way to get the summer started and start thinking about fantasy draft because this is one of my favorite times of the year. So just always looking for ways to make this league better and more fun and creative. It's around 44. There's more than 53 draft rounds. Alright, 54. So, draft's almost done. And then it'll kind of kick off into off season, which we'll skip all that. And then, alright. So I won't spend much time on my team. Jesus, I got Eli Manning. Christ. But I do like my offense. I've got 2 90s. 2 Steelers, actually. That's great. Marcus Gilbert and David DeCastro. And then I like my offense. I've got good weapons. I got Emmanuel Sanders and John Brown, who are kind of both slot guys, so that's not great. AP, I love it with the injuries off. I kind of have the Raiders backup running backs here with those two, but I don't like Eli Manning. That doesn't make me very comfortable. Obviously, quarterback in Madden is pretty huge, so that kind of scares me. Looking at defense, I got James Harrison. All right, so my cornerbacks aren't bad. I got Revis and Josh Norman and Sam Shields. So Cam Chancellor, I went both Seattle. Wow. So back-to-back picks was both Seattle's safeties. That's kind of cool. So I like my team. Did I draft a kicker or a punter? I did. No, I just have a punter, so he's doing everything right now. That's cool. So, alright, so let's see. I'll start from the top. We'll look at John with the 31st. I'm interested to see how his team rounded out. He had the worst pick of everybody with the 31st pick, but it did snake back, so we'll look at it. He's got Kirk Cousins. I feel a lot better with him than Eli Manning. His running backs, he got Derrick Henry and Frank Gore. It's kind of a good 1-2 punch. His wideouts aren't very solid. T.Y. Hilton's good, but he kind of has role players everywhere else. He's got a good left tackle. His line's shaky, but he's got a good tight end. And actually, that's the tight end he drafted in our fantasy league, so that's kind of cool. So for John's defense, he's got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie at the 1 for cornerback, and Nate Lawson. I'm not sure who that is there, but looks like some rookies, and a Browns throwaway with Buster Screen. D-line's not too bad, pretty average. He's got Bobby Wagner in the middle. That was his first round pick, so that's pretty huge. So he's got a decent defense. I wouldn't call it great. He drafted a kicker and a punter, so there's a plus. Went early there. Alright, so look at another team. Trevor's Bills. He'll love this. See how Rex Ryan shaped you out. Blake Bortles, there we go. So, Trevor, enjoyed that one. You got Jay Ajayi, who's not too bad. 84 is pretty solid at the running back. Your wideouts are very solid. You got Macklin, Diggs, and Bolden. Again, you got kind of 2 slot guys on the outsides. So it's not ideal, but you do have Anquan Bolden, who's a big guy. Your line is pretty bad other than your guard and your left tackle. With Villanueva, and you've got 2 backup tight ends for starting, so that's not too great. Defense looks a lot better, just glancing at it. You got Tyrann Mathieu and Corey Joseph in the back, and then Brian Arakpo, obviously, and Anthony Barr, 2 huge at the ends for your linebacker positions. J.J. Watt, 99 overall. How can you argue with that when there's no injuries? So that's cool. Verrett's not too bad. And big question, kicker, punter. First one that doesn't have a kicker or punter. So you will be stuck with whoever is left in free agency. So I'm sure Trevor will love that. Alright, so we'll go to the next one. Go to Cam's Browns. Like this. Did you finally get a quarterback? Flacco. I'm not sure he's too happy about that one, but it's better than what they have. And he's got Mark Ingram, who's a solid starting running back. Taylor Gabriel, who's the next Brown. Golden Tate's pretty good. I don't know if he's a 90 overall, but he was pretty good this year. So, and Hogan obviously stepped it up at the end of the year. So there's some pretty good wideouts, some speed, and good routes by Chris Hogan. The Darius Green, obviously he'll be good with injuries turned off. His line is atrocious on the right side and up the middle, but he solidifies it on the left side. We'll go to the defense. Defense looks real great from the linebackers to the secondary, but the corner spots don't look too great. Brendan Mebane solid up the middle, depending what he drafted a ton of D tackles, but depending on what scheme they run, that'll factor in huge. But his linebackers are probably the best in the league. Just looking at it, Luke Kuechly, Brendan Marshall, Lamar Houston, and Clay Matthews are solid as it gets. And kicker punter. He got probably the best kicker in the league with Justin Tucker. I don't know why he's an 84. Seems kind of low to me, but Madden makes him, not me. So he did get a punter and kicker. All right, we'll go to Proper's team with the Chiefs. All right, so Drew Brees, that was his first round pick, and Jonathan Stewart, that's a solid backfield. And then his wideouts are solid, but there's nobody that kind of jumps out at you. Tavon Austin is strictly just a slot guy. Dontrell Inman, same thing, he's a slot guy, and I believe Tyrell Williams is pretty tall, so he's a pretty decent outside option there. Delaney Walker, it's a good pick, good tight end. Obviously, health issues under concern, so that's why his rating's so high. The line's not too bad, pretty average line. Look at the defense. So, D-line pretty solid. He's got good depth with Vince Wilfork and Antoine Branch. And then Marcus Peters, one of the best corners in the league. Byron Maxwell, he's okay. I think an 83 is a little high for him. His two safeties are pretty good. Cyprian and I don't know who Tandy is. He's probably a backup, but an 80 is solid there. Levante David's as good as it gets. Nick Perry's good, and Foster's good up the middle as well. So pretty good defense as far as that goes. No kicker, punter. So that rounds out Proper's team. All right, Frank. I'm sure he's been waiting for this. Oh, there you go, Trev. Trevor Siemian might be worse than Bortles. So Frank got screwed with his backfield, but he does have some good depth with James White. Abdullah is okay. He hasn't proven himself, but Kadeem Carey is a solid third stringer as well. He's got the best fullback in the draft. He got Kyle Juszczyk, so that's good. Eric Decker, his wideouts are phenomenal. With Curley in the slot, I think that's awesome. Decker and Green are bona fide 1-2s on the outside. And he's got Jordan Reed. So those are huge offensive weapons, so that might help Siemian. I'm curious to see how his offense performs. And he's got kind of a shaky line in front of him. So this is an interesting team. I'm sure if Frank could have trades, he'd trade a tight end or a wideout for some depth at the line or a quarterback. Well, hopefully his defense is a little bit better. All right, looking at the D's, got Eric Weddle, who's a 95. That's pretty high in my opinion, but again, I don't make these, so looks like he's running a 4-3. So his middle linebackers have great depth. His D-line is great for a 4-3, so they really drafted to their depth. Dante Fowler Jr. at an end, that's interesting because I thought he was a linebacker, but could transition there. Malcolm Butler and Shed on the outside, I love those. Shed is up and coming. He's that physical Seattle corner. And he's got a punter doing kicking job too. So that rounds out Frank's team. All right, we'll go with Sean's with the Falcons. All right, so Sam Bradford. Not sure he's excited about that. But Alfred Morris and DeMarco Murray are huge, and he's got Sanu on the outside, so the Falcons kept Sanu in-house. Robert Woods and Rashard Matthews, not great, nobody going to make huge plays, but solid all around. Cameron Brate, not huge tight end there, but he's competent. And then the right side of his line is pretty bad, but he solidifies it upside on the left, so not too bad of an offense. Not sure anything stands out there. Defense, he's got great safeties. He's got Landon Collins and Glover Quinn. Huge guys there. And then he's got Michael Kendricks, who's awesome. Wilson, not sure who that is, and Ahmad Brooks, who are solid as well. And then you come down here, you've got Brandon Graham on the left end. He's awesome. Gerald McCoy and Everett Griffin. So his defensive line and Henry Melton, one of the best D-lines in the league, I would say. Plus, you had Patrick Peterson and Prince Amukamara. So I really like Sean's defense. I'm sure he's pretty happy about that. And he's got Janikowski punting, so I hope they don't sign a punter. I'm kind of curious to see how he punts. It's kind of funny. All right, so we'll go to Chip Kelly and the 49ers for Ken. Alright, Andy Dalton, who's not too bad. I think with the right team, he can lead you places. He keeps his tight end with him with Tyler Eifert. That's a huge no injury tight end right there. Travis Benjamin's a slot guy. I don't know how he is with a wideout too. I think that's Stevie Johnson as a slot, and then Michael Thomas, who's a great up-and-coming wideout. So there's some good weapons for him. He's got Charles Sims and Arian Foster, who injury taken away isn't too bad. And he's got a pretty good line, minus the left guard spot's kind of shaky, but not too bad there. For his defense, he's got decent safety with Alexander. Bruce Irvin's awesome. Hicks is pretty good, and Hughes isn't bad. So his linebackers are pretty good. And then his D-line's not too bad. It's pretty average. And then he's got Aqib Talib with his first-round pick, and Captain Munnerlin on the other side. So that's not too bad. Pretty average defense. And he chose towards the end of the draft, so it kind of shows that you get the well-rounded team instead of something that is just glaring weakness or strength. He's got Boswell kicking and punting. Alright, Bert's Jags. I believe Bert had a top 15 pick. So he's got Alex Smith. Oh, that Le'Veon Bell, Matt Forte combo. That's going to be huge. That's a huge running back there. I can't remember what his first pick was. He got a lot of 95s. I want to question how he got this draft. That's pretty good. Sterling Shepard on the outside, Pryor on the outside, and then Ted Ginn on the inside. That's a good offense right there. That's one of the better offenses we've seen so far. And then his line. I mean, he's got Zach Martin and Cordy Glenn. He did suffer a little bit with his center as well as his right tackle, but that's as good as it gets offensive-wise that I think we've seen. I hope his defense suffered, because... So he's got Cameron Jordan on the right end. That's good, but Connor Barwin's getting old, so his D-line's not great. He's got a good one with Trufant. That was his first-round pick. Man, how did Le'Veon Bell slip to second, third round, wherever he got him? And Stephon Gilmore. So there's two great corners right there. And then Quentin Demps and DJ Swearinger, both at the back safeties, which isn't awful. He's more of a hitting guy, so we'll see how that works out. And then DeMarcus Ware, not too bad. So his defense is solid, his offense is solid. This is a good team right here. Bert got a pretty good draft here, picking top 15. But he doesn't have a kicker or a punter, so there's the weakness right there. All right, Trevor, here you go. Here's your cheating Pats. See how they did with the third overall pick. So with luck, they kind of slipped on overall talent there, but they did get their franchise quarterback. You've got Carlos Hyde and Shane Vereen, a good 1-2 punch. Got a good third down back with Vereen. Devontae Parker is good on the outside, and then Larry Fitz and Michael Floyd. So it's not too bad of receiving options there. There's nothing really behind him as far as depth goes, and he's got one of the best lines that we've seen so far with everybody above an 80, and then Taylor Lewan on the outside protecting the blind spot. He's got two good tight ends. Dennis Pitta is fully healthy, so him and Charles Clay, that'll be a good 1-2 punch there. Look at his defense. Wow. Probably the best D-line that we've seen as well, with Cameron Wake, Fletcher Cox, and Jarrell Casey. That's 2-3 huge talents there. He slips a little bit on his cornerbacks with Orlando Scandrick and Jimmy Ward. I'm not really sure what his first name is, but 78 and 81 for your starting cornerbacks, and then you see the depth behind him with 72 and 70. So he's exposed on the outside, that's for sure. Linebackers are solid, but not great. Not a lot of depth behind him either. But I don't think that matters because injuries are off. So his safeties are pretty bad with Jarius Byrd and Sendejo. So if you're gonna beat the Pats, you're gonna obviously pass on them. And no kicker punter. So there you go. Pats team not too great, but offense is pretty good, and that D-line is intense. That'll be tough to run against. All right. So we're looking at Pat Kelly's Raiders. I know Pat's been waiting for this. Tyrod Taylor. I'm sure if he was controlling this team, Pat would be pretty excited about that. And he got Melvin Gordon and Dion Lewis, two backs that he kept on his team the entire year. So that's pretty cool. Josh Gordon. Apparently suspensions are lifted in this league, so Josh Gordon is able to play. with Devontae Adams and Marvin Jones Jr. So that's an interesting setup right there. And you got Jimmy Graham, who I don't think is really deserving of a 99. That's really, really interesting. Who I think Pat also had on his team. So Pat's got almost his fantasy team on here. Line's pretty solid up the middle. His bookends are pretty bad, so if you're going to get after Pat, you're going to send the edge rushers. Let's look at his defense. So, solid line. He's got, not Martellus, Michael Bennett, Greg Hardy. So, we got the Raiders who have Greg Hardy and Josh Gordon on their team. That's great. Kind of the juvenile team right here. He's got a great cornerback. His first round pick was Charles Harris. And then Young over here, I'm not sure who that is, but his 79 isn't great. But his safeties are good. So he's got Barry Church and Stewart, both over 85. His linebackers aren't great. Jarvis Jones, not too great. Minter, still learning. And then Elvis Dumerul's pretty old. So defense isn't great, but he has a pass rusher in Michael Bennett. Like Phil Dawson is his kicker. Nice. And then he does have a punter. So there you go. Pat probably not too upset about his team. And then we'll finish off with Ploss with the Steelers, our champion of the league. Alright, so he's got Colin Kaepernick. I'm sure Ploss is not happy. But he does have Shady McCoy, and James Starks is not too bad there. Brennan Marshall he had on his actual fantasy team. It's pretty cool. And Jarvis Landry. So there's two wideouts that he kept on his actual fantasy team. So that's pretty cool. And one of the best tight ends in the game with Greg Olsen. His line is as good as it gets. Wow, everybody above 83. He's got Ronald Leary, Linder, Mason, Conklin, and Tyrone Smith. He's got two of the Cowboys guys there. So, well, Leary was a Cowboy guy, I should say. So, wow, it's a good line to protect Kaepernick. See if he can't throw to Jarvis Landry and Brandon Marshall there. On defense, looking at his D-line, not too bad. Pretty solid up front with McClendon as kind of insurance there on spell downs. He's got Artie Burns, who's good young rookie, but I don't know if I'd be happy with his two secondaries, as well as safeties, not too great. So, the Steelers' defense, obviously, not too great here. But he does have Melvin Ingram, who's a solid edge rusher. So there you have it. We'll look at his specialists, and let me know what you guys think of this. Kind of an interesting way to do it. Again, I'll be simming everything. I'm not playing any games. I'm not doing anything with trades or free agents. Everything is run by the computer. All I'm going to do is update the games and see what I can do to give you guys kind of like an ESPN report every week on how your team did. So it'll be kind of fun monitoring this up to the draft, and especially if teams make the playoffs, battling for that Super Bowl. That's the ideal situation. Hopefully we can get two guys in the Super Bowl for this. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys stayed and watched it this long, bless your souls. So I think this was kind of a fun way to do it. Never heard of it done before. So all right, guys, thanks for tuning in.